Welcome to this exclusive launch event in partnership with dentistry.co.uk, where you'll be able to discover new innovations in digital dentistry with Dentsply Sirona. My name is Kasia Jawa, and I'll be your host tonight. We are live from Dentsply Sirona's Academy in Weybridge. And joining us tonight are our guests, Scott Channels, who is the National Sales Manager for Dentsply Sirona's digital platform and solutions team. Scott will talk about the latest product releases from Dentsply Sirona within the 3D printing industry and digital cloud solution market. Joining us tonight is also Jamie Thomas, who is the digital sales specialist within Dentsply Sirona's digital platform and solutions team. Jamie will talk about the latest innovations within the intraoral scanning market, as well as demonstrate the possibilities of the next generation scanning technology in a live scan. And finally, joining us live from Germany, an international speaker, Dr. Gerd Frasek, who owns a private clinic located 30 miles from Cologne in Germany. Together with 5 other dentists, Dr. Frasek focuses on tooth preservation and implant dentistry using adhesive dentistry, digital technologies, and full ceramics. And Dr. Frasek will share his opinions and experiences on solutions we will be discussing tonight. So what can you expect in the next 45 minutes? There will be 3 segments to tonight's event. We will first begin with updates on the latest innovations within the 3D printing market and talk about the highly automated end-to-end 3D printing system. We will then move on to an overview of the latest digital cloud solution specifically designed for dentistry. And finally, we will cover the next generation scanning technology and discover the possibilities of digital impression when applied to clinical procedures. If you have any questions throughout the event, please use the Ask a Question button on your screen, and we will include your questions at the end of the event in the Q&A section. Without further ado, let's begin and let's start this exclusive launch event. Scott, let's start with you and an overview of the 3D printing market.
Thank you, Kasia. So let's talk a little bit about 3D printing. So most of you will be familiar with 3D printing. You might have seen it in other industries. You might have even seen it at laboratories, or some of you may even have access to some of them in clinic. But 3D printing's not been mass adopted yet within dentistry. Certainly a lot more in the lab side of the business, but not so much in clinic. And the reason for that is at the moment it's quite a messy process. You know, it's a very messy workflow and it's not really designed around dentistry. There's resins, for example, that you need to move around. You need to wear gloves during the process. There's isopropanol alcohol as well that we need to be used during the process as well. So it's quite messy. And there's also quite a few stages that you need to go through as well. So in terms of moving between different wash baths, and someone needs to manually do that. And then also taking over to a curing unit as well, where it needs to be cured. And there's lots of intricacies that could go wrong during that process. You also need extraction as well, because you're working with chemicals that do have fumes. So in most cases, you will need extraction. Now, this is where Primeprint or Primeprint solution really brings something to dentistry, because it's a 3D printer and processing unit that is built around dentistry. So it's a medical device that's built around dentistry. Now, let's go and have a look at Primeprint solution. So we've got 2 units here. The first unit is the 3D printer itself. So this is where all the printing happens. And then just over here, we've got the post-processing unit. So the post-processing unit is where we do all of the wash on the resin from the material that we've printed. We wash twice, and we'll go through that, and then it'll be cured. But it'll all be done inside one unit. So there's no need for wearing gloves, having extraction, all of that kind of thing. Now, before we talk through the workflow in Primeprint, you need to think about, okay, how do we receive files? What files can we use? And how do we input those into the software? So we work with the in-lab CAM software, and CAM software is basically a software that talks to both units and tells it exactly what to do. You can import an STL file of a design. So whether that's a night guard, whether that's a splint, a surgical guide for the placement of implants, whether that's temporaries, like a large temporary bridge, or even something like a study model or a thermoform model for doing suck downs on, you can take that STL file and bring that straight into the software. Or if you've got any of the CEREC software, so if you're working with CEREC Primescan or the CEREC workflow, or you're working with in-lab software, you can also design a file within that and bring it automatically straight into the software. Now, as we talked a little bit about earlier, the workflow has been designed to be as autonomous as possible. So it's a highly automated workflow, which takes a lot of the faff and learning software out of it. So I've got my STL file and I've loaded it in here. This is a model case. So basically, I just want to print off a study model and I want to have a look at that case and perhaps send it over to the lab. So I'm going to click on the case here, and then I'm going to come down to this button here, which is the fast forward button. That's going to take me right to the end of the processing, and it's going to design all of the supports. It will put resin drains automatically in the model, and it will optimize it for me. The benefit there is that you're not having to go through the software and select different supports, add them, manipulate the model, making sure it's in the right position. You don't need to do any of that. You can do that if you want to, if you want to be very hands-on with it and you want to, there's a very specific intricate case that you really want to make sure it's got the right supports, but all of this can be automated. So we've got my production options here. I've optimized for a high accuracy model. So I want a nice accurate model that I can work with, and that will extend the amount of time that it does printing. If I do go for very high, so I want a super accurate case, maybe something like a surgical guide, that'll take a little bit longer. Or if it's just a basic model that we need to print off, we can even go down to low resolution. So you can optimize for accuracy, you can optimize for speed, and you can select that within the software. Now, that's pretty much ready to go. All I need to do is hit the big green button down there, which is start production, and it'll send the file straight in to the Primeprint, which is the printing part of the process. So let's have a little look inside. So the first part here is I'd need to put a material unit in here, but there's one already inserted. So let me take this out and show you the material part. So you'll have seen with a lot of printers on the market that you need a bottle of liquid resin that you would need to pour onto the vat so it's then prepared. So you don't have to do any of that with Primeprint. Basically, we've got a material cartridge here that's been slotted straight at the top, which is this part here. I'm using model material. So there's a range of different materials you've got, again, that caters to the restorations or types of indications that you're doing. So if you want guide material, which is for surgical guides, temporary materials, thermoforming models, so that you can do suck downs on the models, all of those. I'm going to use the Primeprint model. This is just inserted into the material cassette, and this is just literally inserted as you would with like a laser printer or something that you'll have in the office already. So we just slot this straight in into the guide rails there and lock it into position so it can't move out. Now, the next part that I'm going to pop in here, this is Primeprint box, what we call Primeprint box. It's a build plate that's included in this carton, and this carton stops the material curing before it needs to. And this is the real magic part of Primeprint solution, because you're moving this in between the post-processing and the 3D printer. You're not having to manually move the model itself with gloves on and take it through different baths. You're moving the Primeprint box itself. So I would insert this box straight in. Tells me straight away that the build plate is ready. We would close and then we would hit start straight away. Let's imagine this is now printed. We're 45 minutes later, maybe an hour later. I've walked past after having a cup of coffee. Grab the Primeprint box, close the printer, and now I want to post-process this case. Okay, so it needs to go through 2 wash baths to take off any resin on the surface, and then it needs to be dried and taken for a curing. And this is all done in one unit. So I would just literally walk past. You could delegate this to a team member, place that inside, and then you can see the 2 wash vats here. So these are both filled with isopropanol liquid that will wash the surface of the resin, come across, and it will move it between the stations where it needs to go. All I have to do is place it in the unit, and then we would hit start job, and then we'd have a finished article. Now, final processing, that takes about 45 minutes. But let's have a little look through the inner workings of the machine as it's going through the processes. So you'll see here on this video, we select the material cartridge that we're using. So in this case, it's splint material because we want to print off a splint. Place it into the material unit and then inside the printer. There is an RFID tag on that material cassette that tells you you've put the right material in and there's no mix up of materials. You know, you've not accidentally put model material in or something like that. Primeprint box goes inside the 3D printer. And again, that has an RFID tag on it as well. So it knows what case has been allocated to that build plate. Now, printing process will begin. The material unit will allow the resin to pour down onto the vat, and it will pour the correct amount of material on there so that it's measuring it all the way through the process so that you're getting economical use of resin. Go through the printing process, and we'll get a green light on the Primeprint. So now we take the Primeprint box and we place it inside the post-processing unit. Now we can walk off and have a cup of coffee. What's happening in the background here is that the motor arm inside is moving it between the different wash bays. So it will go for its first wash, which is an isopropanol alcohol. Then it goes for a second wash, and then it will be removed, go through a drying process, and then finally it will fall down into the curing unit where it will be cured. Now, that job's completed. It will place it back into the Primeprint box for you, and we're ready to go. So we've just processed this unit. So let's take it out. A Blue Peter moment, because here's what I made earlier. So I'm going to remove the base plate, and then you'll have a look. This is the finished article. So this is a scan of one of my colleagues that we've printed out a model on. And I printed this earlier. It took about an hour because, again, I had it highly optimized. So I wanted high accuracy. And I put it through the post-processing unit, which took about 45 minutes. And you can see the supports there as well. Now, with that case, all we need to do is slide it off the build plate and then remove the supports with the snipping tool. And then we would have a final model like this. So this is the final model. And you can see the supports have been removed and that case is ready. Now, that's final. There's nothing more that needs to be done with that case. That's completely finished and we're done and dusted. That's how simple the workflow is when it comes to Primeprint solution. I think it adds a lot of value to practices, especially being able to do things like night guards or temporary restorations, being able to do those in-house. You could also delegate designs to the laboratory and work closely, or even if you're working in a lab as a printing solution for models, temporaries, wax, chrome plates, things like that, they can all be printed on the solution. So I'll now hand back over to Kasia.
Thank you, Scott, for this excellent overview. We will now ask a few questions to Dr. Frazek. However, before we do that, for full disclosure and clarity, Primeprint was launched in Germany and in the US in May 2022, so earlier this year. And in addition to that, our guest speaker was one of the first KOLs to try Primeprint in the beta testing. So what that means is Dr. Frazek is not only experienced clinician in 3D printing in general, but also experienced in using Primeprint. So let's ask a few questions. Dr. Frazek, what was 3D printing process like before you discovered Primeprint? In other words, what would most people be familiar with when they think of 3D printing in dentistry today?
When we started 3D printing 5.5 years ago, we had some more disappointing experiences in the beginning. So actually, I broke my printer, my formless printer, when I started my first print, and we had to send it in for 6 weeks for that. And in the beginning, the results were quite poor. Maybe a third of them was not completed. The print was not complete. And that changed later. I think 3D printing in general has made progress since then. But my personal experience, my biggest surprise was that I was not expecting 3D printing in the way it is. So I was thinking that 3D printing is like milling. So I push a button and I get a result out of a machine. And if you consider the whole workflow, the 3D printing actually is not even 50% of the whole procedure. So preparing, designing the print, and for most of it, the post-processing is very important. And post-processing has become so easy with Primeprint solution that we could not imagine to live without it. Actually, I ordered a Primeprint this week. Testing is over. I have to buy it myself, and I did this week.
That's fantastic. So, Dr. Fraser, given what you just described, what were your first impressions of Primeprint?
So it was reliable really from the beginning on. We never had as poor experiences as we had 5 years ago with other printers, for example. And we love the versatility of the of Primeprint and the reliability of it. And we are using quite some materials.
Okay, and Dr. Fraser, what do you use your Primeprint for?
So probably the most we use it for models. I'm a little bit old-fashioned, so I like to have a model and to try on the restoration. I prefer to have it in my hands and to have it in relation to the model. But we are doing splints and we are doing guides. We use the temporary materials, which we use for temps and shell temps especially. And in some cases, we are using it as a prototype. So in CAM software does allow that you design something for Zirconia Bridge, for example, but you can print it out, the same design. You don't have to switch that. You can switch that in CAM software. So in complicated cases like anteriors, we do a prototype. We try that prototype, a printed prototype. Maybe the patient will even get it as a temporary restoration, and then we do the final one. And in some very rare cases, we're using the tray material for individual trays also.
That's great. Thank you very much, Dr. Fraser, for those insights. So this will conclude the first part of the event, focus on the 3D printing market. And now we'll move on to the second part, where we introduce the concept of DS Core, a digital cloud solution designed specifically for dentistry. We will play a short introductory video, and then we'll be back with more information.
Introducing DS Core, our new digital platform that provides a full integration between hardware, software, and services. By enabling any workflow, you and your team can now stay connected with your partners and labs like never before. Every time and everywhere. Efficiency, connectivity, collaboration opportunities. DS Core works with you, so you can save time and focus even more on what matters the most, your patients.
Welcome back. Let's move on to the second part of tonight's event and talk about cloud solution for dentistry. Scott, what is DS Core and why is Dentsply Sirona launching it?
Okay, so before we go into DS Core and the kind of how and the what I think is really important to understand is our why at Dentsply Sirona. So our purpose, our vision, if you like, is to transform dentistry so we can improve oral health globally. And that's really important to us because we bake it into everything we do, especially when it comes to digital products. And I think DS Core is no better example of this. So what is DS Core? Basically, it's a cloud storage solution, or right now it's a cloud storage solution. So it's one central place where you can store all of the patient files that you have. So be they intraoral scans, CBCT images, any videos or pictures you have, 2D images, all of that stored on one platform in one location. It's GDPR compliant and HIPAA compliant. And the beauty of that is that, and if you were so inclined, you could access your data when you're sat on the beach looking through different files. I'm not suggesting you should do that, but you could do that. And that's where cloud storage really comes into its own. You can access the files from anywhere on any laptop, just with your username and password details. Now, there's 3 parts to DS Core. The first part is cloud storage, which we've just spoke about. But the second part is the patient media library. So just with a simple click on a patient, you'll be able to see all the media that you've collected for that specific patient. Again, whether it's images, JPEG files, whether it's movies like MP4, whether it's intraoral scans, be they STL or DS proprietary files, whether it's CBCT data, that can all be loaded, and you can view that patient history and all of their media in one location. It's really good for an overview. The third part, and this is the part that's probably of most interest, is the shareability. So any of those files you can share with other clinicians. So there's a referring dentist that you want to send the files on to. There's another clinician, perhaps in the practice or another practice that you want a second opinion from. You can share those files directly just with the click of a button and adding the email address in there. They'll be able to view their files, download them. So just to summarize, the 3 key benefits there are that you've got cloud storage, access from anywhere, patient media library, and also shareability of those files. So it makes it very easy when you're managing all the files that you've got. There's nothing worse than all the different softwares and having scans, images located all around the practice on different pieces of software. But let's have a little look at the platform and how we would work with it. So here on this video, you'll see the main dashboard, which is how DS Core will open up. So see all my patients, I can see any of the orders that I've either sent to the lab or sent through DS Core Create. I've also got my shares, and then on the left, I've got my administration. So I'm clicking here, I can view my users, I can view my subscription info, I can look at the plan I'm on, I can look at a patient list. The important note is that there's an unlimited amount of users that you can add to it. So 1 account per practice, add as many users you want. Now, these patients are demo patients, so they're not actually real patients. We're not sharing real patient info here. We can scan through all of the media library with this patient. And here, I could also upload additional files if I wanted to. But I'll have a look through. You can see my 2D images. I'm going to go straight onto a CBCT image. Now, all the rendering is being done on DS Core. That means the image is loading on DS Core. And that's backed up by Google Cloud. So the processing is not being done on a local laptop or computer. So worrying about the hardware that you've got, you don't have to do that because it's all built on DS Core. Now, here I've got my CBCT image, so I can move that image around. I can control the contrast, the brightness. I can look through different views like axial, sagittal. I can scroll through those images and get a good understanding of what's going on. It's important to note that we don't do diagnosis right now on DS Core, that you need to bring it into a planning software to do any of the diagnosis. But here you can view the files and have them stored in one central location that's completely secure. So let's go and have a look at a different file. So I want to have a look at an intraoral scan that's on the platform. So let's find an intraoral scan. Here we have a DXD file. So I'm going to double click on this case. And again, it will process, but it's not processing locally. It's processing on the platform on the cloud. Now, here's an intraoral scan. So we can have a look around at this scan, get an idea for the case, what's going on. We've then got that file that we can share with other clinicians, which we'll go through in a sec, but it's being shown there in full color. Important to note, if it's an STL data doesn't cover color information. You can manually upload STLs. Now, if I want to share these files, all I need to do is tick the boxes on each of those images that I want to share. So I'm going to share a CBCT image, intraoral scan, and a video. And then I hit share. Now, here I can change the title of the files. I can also anonymize the case. If I don't want the person to know who I'm sending the file to, what the name of the patient is, I can anonymize that information, which is very important. I can also select the amount of time that they have access to that files. So is it 7 days, 30 days, 180 days? I can set the amount of time that they have access to that file, which is very good for controlling your data. If you're just burning it to a USB, you don't really have full control of that data. So I can then pop their email address, hit share, and then they'll receive a notification that you have some files to view. They can view them, they can add comments, they can also download the file and bring it into their own planning software. It'll also show you on the dashboard any outstanding shares. So any files that you've shared, it will show you there and show you how long you've got remaining for those shares. And you can revoke that share information at any time. So if you no longer want someone to have access to that data, you can revoke that share. So I think that's a really nice feature. So DS Core is a web-based platform for storing all files. So a cloud-based platform for storing all of your files and combining it in one place. You've got a Primescan or an Omnicam, you can automatically upload all of the data in the background. So any new cases that you scan will automatically upload to DS Core. And that's the same as well if you have one of our CBCTs. You can pair Sodexis with DS Core and it will automatically upload new cases. But this is only the start for DS Core. At the moment, we're focusing on the cloud storage, but there'll be many features brought onto the platform that will really enhance the workflows that you have in your practice. Final part of DS Core is DS Core Care, okay, which is our after-sales and warranty program that we're building into the core platform. Why are we building it into the core platform? It's because firstly, you'll have 24/7 access to a customer support portal. At any point, you'll be able to go in, access information, ask a question. So for example, how do I calibrate a Primescan? What's the cleaning process with Primeprint? You'll be shown tutorial videos, how to, special sections from the manual that will support you for when it's out of hours. And also we have a dedicated support line. So if you do have issues with equipment, and inevitably it will happen with any piece of equipment that you have, sometimes things can go wrong, you can then call that line and get support immediately. And part of DS Core Care is also spare parts. What we're trying to do here is give real peace of mind and minimize any downtime that someone would go through at a practice. So DS Core Care is built onto the DS Core platform. So I hope you've enjoyed that segment about DS Core. I'll hand back over to yourself, Kasia.
Thank you very much, Scott. We've got one question for Dr. Prasek. Dr. Prasek, what are the everyday benefits you experience using DS Core?
We collaborate quite a lot with other dentists. So some of them are referring their patients to us to have the CBCT done, and they need the information about the CBCT back, and sending back a CBCT is quite complicated. Usually we had to burn a DVD or something like that. So that became much easier. And another way to use it is I'm not performing all types of implant therapy. So if there are treatments that require special surgical skills, we have specialized dentists we collaborate with, and they also need our planning information. So we send over the CBCT planning reports, and we exchange and share files pretty easy, and also considering the data security regulations.
That's great. Thank you very much, Dr. Prasek. So now so this will conclude the second part of the event. And now we'll move on to the final segment, which will be focused on exploring the latest solution within the intraoral scanning market. So what we'll do now is play a short introductory video of Primescan Connect, and then we'll be back with more information shortly. Welcome back. Let's start the overview, Jamie. Tell us more about Primescan Connect solution. What's new and why is Dentsply Sirona launching it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm really excited tonight, guys, to introduce you to our Primescan Connect solution. So this is our latest innovation in digital dentistry, and that's our elusive portable scanner, which we've been after for so long. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is to jump into a quick showcase of what the Primescan Connect solution actually looks like. So if you see on the workbench here, we have our Primescan, which is situated on the cradle, a laptop, and the coupling box. And that's it. That's all the components that you need. So this means it's really easy to move between surgeries, up and down stairs, between practices. So it's perfect for the clinician on the go. What's even better is that our Primescan Connect solution is powered by DS Core. So what this means is all your data is automatically transferred to our cloud-based platform. So this data is safe and secure, as Scott mentioned earlier. You can access it from anywhere as well. You can also add your CBCT information as well. So what you can create is a really nice looking patient media library. What you also have included in the package is DS Care. So again, Scott mentioned earlier, this will protect your investments. You'll have 24 access to resources, direct support line, and also accidental damage cover as well for the Primescan, because this really is the most expensive part of the device here. So if that happens to be dropped by mistake, rest assured that you're covered as well. So it helps to minimize the downtime. And in addition, your laptop is covered as well. So that's the Primescan Connect solution, but I'm just going to talk about what makes this tick. And it really is down to the stunning camera that we have. So nothing's changed here, which is a good thing, by the way. And I'm just going to talk about the technology and what really sets this camera apart. So there's several components within the camera. So first of all, we have our large field of view. And this is going to help you to capture more data in less time. So there's typically less sweeps around the mouth. If we had a smaller device, you'd be pitching and rolling and taking a lot longer to scan. So this is really maximizing efficiency here. If you notice on the back of the camera as well, you can also use this as additional retraction as well. See that sloped edge there. Next, we have our active heater, which is situated within the camera, and this will help to defog the sapphire glass. So that means every time you're going to get a clear and crisp scan without fail. So next, we're coming to the two most important parts. So we have our dynamic lens, which is a lens within the camera, which is active. And this is moving about 10 times a second. And what it's doing is projecting a pattern onto the tooth surface. And that pattern is changing frequency about 20,000 times a second, which is incredible, capturing up to 50,000 images and over 100 million contrast values. So lots of numbers there. But what it means is really important because we're going to capture some fantastic imagery here. And all this data is collected by our smart pixel sensor. So it's all collected, all measured. And when I show you the results, you'll be really quite overwhelmed at just how good our images look. So super sharp, high resolution images here. We have our motion sense technology. So this means as you pick up the camera, it becomes active. So it helps to maximize efficiency when you're scanning. Pop it down in the cradle, it will deactivate. And lastly, we have our intelligent processor. This is where all the data is processed, rendered, and it transfers through the cable into the Connect software. So that's the technology, but let's see how this all comes together and how it works. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to talk about the Connect software to begin with. So the idea of the Primescan Connect solution is to scan and send to a production partner. And I'm going to use all the technology now just to give you a demonstration of how we scan. So I'm just going to scan a model to begin with. So I'm on the second stage of the process now. So you can see at the top, there's 4 catalogs, let's say. Admin, acquisition, model, and connects. Administration is simply entering what type of indication we're doing. So in this instance, we're doing a digital impression for a study model, let's say. Next is our acquisition, so our scanning. Model, third stage, is our preview stage, and connect, where it uploads and then sends to wherever we want it to go. So what I'm going to do, pick up the camera, I'm going to hold it like a pen grip. So I've got good weight and balance here. Now, different manufacturers, different cameras will tell you to handle each camera differently. That's totally normal. But our Primescan manages to hold it in a certain way and use a certain strategy, which I'm going to highlight now. I'm going to start with the lower jaw. There's 3 catalogues at the bottom, lower, upper, and buccal. I'm going to start with the lower. What I'm going to do is maneuver the camera over the occlusal surface, and I'm going to tilt with my fingers to occlusal lingual point of view. And all I'm going to do is work with the dynamic lens. I'm just going to sweep around the arch. Then I'm going to maneuver to the occlusal. I'm going to simply go back to where I started. And then I'm going to tilt buccal. So you're looking from a buccal occlusal. And then again, sweep around the arch, nice and smoothly. We see there, that's 3 scans, and that creates our foundation scan. At this point, we can review the scan and pick up any missing information. So once the lower is complete, we're going to go to our upper. Same strategy. Start with occlusal, because it's got lots of nice reference, lots of nice morphology, and cameras like reference points. And then we're just going to sweep around the arch like so. 1 sweep, 2nd sweep, and then a buccal sweep. So it's 3 sweeps around the arch. And again, that completes the scan. We can pick up any missing information that we may have not captured during that scan. The last scan is a buccal scan. So patient bites together. And then I'm going to position the camera in the posterior zone here. I'm capturing molars and premolars. And that's going to align both our upper and lower jaws together. So that's how you scan a model. But what's more impressive, if that wasn't impressive enough, is how it performs live, so in an actual intraoral environment. So as you see now on the screen, you'll see a real life scan. So the same strategy that we just discussed, flowing around the arch nice and smoothly, working with the dynamic lens, not against it. And that's really important. So no sudden movements, no pitching and rolling, always work with the camera, keeping it nice and close and keeping the teeth in that camera view. That's our 2nd sweep there. And that's our upper jaw complete. And then we move to the buccal. Same principle. We're aligning both sets of data together now, both the lower and the upper. And that's a complete scan in just 41 seconds, which is really incredible. And I'm confident with time, with confidence, you'll be able to deliver such timings. So once we move to from acquisition, we go to model. As you see on the screen now, just how impressive the actual images look. Super sharp, high resolution. And when you communicate this to a patient and you show them, you'll notice how the acceptance will increase, because what you're doing there is reviewing with the patient, you're communicating, and you can discuss various different treatment solutions. We've got several examples here during this video feed. We've got preparation, bridge preparation. We can do preoperative scans as well. This is probably my favorite, the implant scan, because what this does, it highlights our dynamic depth. So we can scan up to a depth of 20 mil. Again, it's super impressive. You can see right down to the implant site there. And picking up all sorts of different materials and surfaces, shiny surfaces, you can just see how well it copes. So whatever the indication, the Primescan will pick it up, even edentulous arches. And this can start you on your digital denture workflow. So just to summarize, indication for use really are boundless. So restorative, orthodontic, implants, sleep appliances, partial frameworks, digital dentures, the list really does go on. But what I really encourage you to do is book a demonstration with one of your specialists. If you like what you've seen today, it's going to cost you absolutely nothing and you've got absolutely everything to gain. So I do encourage you to reach out to a specialist, especially if you like what you've seen. We can come down, do a demonstration, right on your colleagues, for example, and we can talk about our really attractive commercial packages that we have on offer as well. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the scan, and it's back over to you, Cassia.
Thank you very much, Jamie. We'll have a question for Dr. Prazik. Dr. Prazik, we know that you have a CEREC system in your practice, but focusing solely on Primescan technology, what was your first impression of Primescan, and what scanner did you use before?
I started to use CEREC 22 years ago when I bought a used CEREC 2 machine. And since then, we got every scanner that came out by Sirona or Dentsply Sirona. And really, Primescan did change our clinic, our whole clinic, as nothing else in the last years, because we almost replaced any kind of physical analog impressions since then. I have taken 4 or 5 impressions in the last 3 years, so that's it. And we even removed parts in our lab where we used to create stone models. And since we are printing them, there's no need for this part in the lab. So everybody is using Primescan. We still have an Omnicam standing in a corner, and nobody wants to use it in comparison to Primescan. So even if two of us need Primescan, we rather wait for each other than to take the older scanning device like Omnicam, which is not bad, but it's so much more convenient to use Primescan. I think that was the biggest innovation in the last years.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Dr. Prasek. So this will conclude the main portion of the event, where we covered the key areas of digital dentistry, the 3D printing, cloud solution, and intraoral scanning solution. But before we open for the Q&A, Dentsply Sirona would like to extend an invitation to the audience of tonight's webinar to an exciting event that's happening on the 1st of November. A movie premiere showing 7 months of collaboration between 2 leading clinicians on a smile makeover case, including orthodontic and implant treatment. Join us in Everyman Cinema in Glasgow, Manchester, and London on 1st of November. Let's watch a trailer for more details, and we'll be back for the Q&A section afterwards.
This new year was just about like, this is going to be the year that I just really want to get my teeth done once and for all. I want to get to a place where I feel completely confident and happy with the way they look.
It's not about the dentistry itself, it's about the impact of on a person's life. And I think often as clinicians, we don't realise what an effect changing a person's smile can have on every aspect of their life.
The people who maybe haven't been able to smile, haven't been able to chew, haven't been able to actually enjoy their social interaction, being able to change those lives, I think, is a real privilege. What makes this case again a little bit more complex is I'm working alongside an orthodontist. So I need to work alongside Nina in order to get him, the teeth straight and also the implant integrated.
It's important to collaborate closely because we need to allow enough time for the implant to go in, for the healing to happen. So all of these factors you're able to, using the SureSmile platform, consider and plan accurately. By being able to use tools like guided surgery, pre-planned prosthetics, all of these things are making it much quicker and much more efficient for us to deliver implantology. It's definitely the way forward, and I think digital dentistry is the future.
I've been putting that off for 8 years and I just could not believe I didn't do it sooner.
This is truly the last chance to sign up to get your free seat at a movie premiere. You're now seeing a slide on your screen with instructions on how to register. Please take a picture of your screen with the QR code and register later tonight. And now, let's start the Q&A section. and see what questions we've got from the audience. So let's see. We've got a question for Scott. What is the capacity of printed arches on the print platform, either vertically? What is the capacity on the platform? So imagine how many arches can you print?
Yeah, of course. So I can answer that question. So the dimensions of the build plate are on the website. So I don't have them off the top of my head, but you can find those on the website. It very much depends on the size of the model, so size of the base of the model, is it a quadrant, all of those kind of things. And again, exactly as the questioner asked, depending on how you store them in terms of how you stack them, whether they're horizontal, whether they're vertical on the build plate. So there's lots of different areas where it can be controlled, but on that build plate, I've seen up to 5 models being stacked on there. Obviously, if you lay them horizontally, then it would be less, probably depending on the art size, maybe 3 or 4 that could be fit onto that build plate.
Okay, that's great. Another question is it possible to print night guards?
Yes, yes, it is. And I think this is a really interesting indication because, practices are doing a lot of night guards, especially for complex restorative work. So night guards can be printed on Primeprint and obviously go fully through the processing unit. And I think this is a really key indication for labs and practices as well.
That's great. And another question, so we'll bunch them for Primeprint.
Yeah.
Another question is, if I have design software from a third party, can I use Primeprint?
Yes, you can. So the files, Primeprint is open, so you can import STL files directly into InLab CAM, and then it will process that. So if you're working with any third-party software, you can take files from there, provided that software is open, and you can bring them straight into Primeprint.
And I think final question for you, Scott, regarding Primeprint. Can I use resins from different manufacturers?
At the moment, so Dtex is the manufacturer of the materials that we provide. There will be more manufacturers that are added on over time. What we have is a validation process for materials. So it's very similar to Steric in terms of that. What we like to do is check how those materials work with the printer and that they work effectively and there's not any errors that's brought into that. So provided a manufacturer comes to us for validation, then they can be brought on board on the printer.
Okay, thank you.
To be added.
Thank you. So we've got a question for Dr. Frazek. So we've got a comment about or that some people are concerned with the size of Primeprint and post-processing unit when they first see it. What are your thoughts?
Both devices look quite impressive. And if you compare them to other printers, we started with Formlab, they look bigger. But actually, you have to consider the space you need to operate the whole system. So when you open the hood of the Formlabs printer, the height of the devices are pretty much the same. And the same is with the washing and light curing unit. They open vertically, so they have almost the same height when they are used. And but if you ask me about the size of things, what I really enjoy is the compact size of the material units. Because in Formlex, for example, if you want to store a tank and change the material, you have to pack it in a big box, which is really big and not very handy. But the material packages, the material units that we use here with Dentsply Sirona materials are quite compact. You just close them, they are light safe, and they're easy to handle. So we need much less space to store the extra material than we used to have. We used to do that before when we used other parties and other companies' printers.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Dr. Frazek. So we've got another question for Scott.
Yeah.
And I think this is related to the score. Am I limited in the number of users?
No. So what we recommend is 1 account per practice, and the amount of users you have is completely unlimited. So the admin or whoever sets up the account as the administrator can add as many users as they want. So everyone within the practice, whether they're part of the nursing team, practice manager, any of the clinicians or specialists, can all be added onto Core. And then if anyone leaves the practice, obviously you don't want them to have access to the data, you can remove that user at any point. So unlimited.
Okay, great. And can I upload scans from a third-party scanner for the score?
Yes, you can. Yep, so scans from a third-party intraoral scanner and third-party imaging or X-ray device can be added onto DS Core. So there's a range of different file formats that are compatible on there. So all you need to do is manually upload them. So you create a patient and manually upload those files on there, and then they'll be in that patient library.
Okay, great. And a final question for you regarding DS Core. What further developments will be made with DS Core?
So there's lots planned for DS Core without letting the cat out of the bag. But the way that I would look at it is that at the moment, DS Core is like a Dropbox for dentistry, a place where you can store all of your files and have access to them, be able to share them with others. That will transform to much more of a Microsoft 365 kind of scenario where there's apps built onto the platform, and lots more that you can do with the scans. So watch this space is all I would say.
Okay, great. Thank you, Scott. We've got a question for Dr. Frazek regarding DS Core. Dr. Frazek, how would you describe DS Core to a colleague?
It's a cloud platform that makes it very easy to share data with colleagues and share them regarding to data security regulations.
Okay, that's
But
great.
maybe not only this, when we used it, we learned that it's quite handy to have easy access to the files. So if I need to remember a case, I don't have to go back to Primescan and open the scan there. I just open a browser in my office, sitting on my desk, and I can watch the case again.
That's great. And how would you describe your experience using the platform itself? Is it intuitive or is it a bit?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to use. Yeah.
Okay, short and sweet. Thank you very much. And okay, that's great. And we've got some questions regarding Primescan Connect. So Jamie, is Primescan Connect an open solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Primescan Connect solution is absolutely open. So you can take a scan and you can openly export it as an STL file format and send it wherever you may want to send it. But yeah, the answer is yes, it's fully open.
Okay, that's great. And can you upgrade Primescan Connect to CEREC?
Good question. Probably one I get asked quite frequently, actually. So you can't upgrade the Primescan Connect solution to CEREC. However, we have the Primescan Acquisition Center. So it's a conversation we'd have during our appointment, essentially. If you want to scan and send, then the Primescan Connect solution is absolutely ideal. But if you're thinking about offering single visit dentistry in the future, then I highly recommend a Primescan Acquisition Center or a Primescan AC. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jamie. And can I buy Primescan camera and use my own laptop?
No. So the Primescan Connect solution comes as a complete package. So you'll have the camera, the laptop, everything's included, approved, and validated. So the answer is no.
Okay, and what happens if my laptop has issues in terms of what's next?
Yeah, so if your Lenovo laptop has any issues, you're covered by DS Care. So the Lenovo guys will come out and they will help and assist and support you to get you up and running as soon as possible. So that's the beauty of the whole package, that you're fully covered with every element of the solution.
Okay, and I can only see partially the question, but
yeah,
it's about a young patient being scanned with Primescan.
Yeah.
And I imagine this is implying the size of the camera.
Yes.
So have you heard any questions around that? Have any dentists suggested that Primescan is difficult to scan small children, for example?
I think at first glance, if you look at the camera, you might think it's relatively large. However, if you look in comparison to all the cameras on the market, they're all of a similar size, if I'm honest with you. Some are even larger. And the way the Primescan works, it is really minimally invasive. We've done scans on infants and it's worked incredibly well. So, and the surgeon was absolutely delighted with the results because it was minimally invasive. So if I'm honest with you, I would say it's not as big as you may think, especially when you get your confidence, start using it, understand how it works, work with the technology, then honestly, it's really not as big or invasive as you may think. But if I'm honest with you, the best way to tell is to have a demonstration. That's the best way to test it. Try it on your colleagues, your associates, and try it for yourself.
Great. Thank you very much, Jamie. This will close this exclusive launch event and will close the Q&A section, where hopefully you learned about new innovations in digital dentistry from us, Dentsply Sirona. And I'd like to thank all of our guests, Jamie, Scott, and Dr. Frazek, for their support with the event. And thank you, the audience, for joining us tonight. And if you'd like to learn more about any of the technology or equipment solutions discussed today, please go to Dentsply Sirona website and book one-to-one consultation with one of our digital sales specialists. And likewise, if you'd like to sign up to our upcoming A Smile is Born event on 1st of November, please register online using the QR code provided. That's it for now. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Goodbye.